Hey, it's movie retrospective time once again. This one was kind of this is an out of left field kind of choice. I only picked this one. I picked this one for two reasons. One, because I had seen this come up on like a lot of underrated horror lists and I had never seen it. And Shudder just happened to add it, and I was like, "Oh, I kept hearing about that movie. It's Australian." And I was like, "So maybe we should check it out, and then we'll review it next time." Patrick, see, he doesn't even know.
Yeah, I don't even know. Well, we saw a lot of them. Patrick, I'm trying to remember which one that was. I get them all confused.
Yeah, because
I'll remember as soon as you start talking about it.
It's basically the setup of it. It's basically like the Australian Carrie. Kind of. It's one of your telekinesis movies.
Yeah, that early 80s movies, right?
It's from 1978.
78? Okay, yeah. It was a good movie.
This was an Ozploitation, as Quentin Tarantino dubbed it. Yeah. Well, the very funny thing about this... Okay, so I guess when this was originally released in the U.S., that it was dubbed over with American actors, just like Mad Max was, which is stupid. But I'm happy to report that the version on Shudder has the Australian, and some of the actors are British too. Like I think the main actress that plays Kathy in it she's British. So everybody has their normal accents.
I think they always claim, well, the American market may not be able to understand what they're talking. I don't think that's what it was. I think it had something to do with contract, with some kind of contract agreement. That if they were going to release a movie in the United States, there had to be a certain amount of Americans working on it. That's probably what it was. And it just gave money to some voice actor in some studio that was going to distribute it. That's probably all it was.
Yeah, maybe. It could be both things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could have been like a win-win. But yeah, that always...
Because, Mad Max fucking suffered tremendously from a fucking
from being dubbed into like with American accents. They're going
to
to fool anybody into thinking that it's an American
I could tell it was dubbed, even back then when we were a kid. It sounded like shit. It just looked like shit. It didn't make any sense until I saw it with the original soundtrack, and all of a sudden, like, oh man, this isn't just a flick. This is a film. This is a movie, a film.
A film with a capital F.
Yeah, this is a film. Yeah, it was good, man. Yeah, dubbing English to English fucking is stupid, man.
That is dumb. Like, the thing is, okay, if somebody has really thick Australian accents or really thick Scottish accents, for example, or something like that, but it's still English, I mean, then just put the fucking closed captioning on if you're that worried about it.
Well, they didn't have that back in the day, but, you know what I mean? I can understand it. I can understand pretty much any English, and if I can't, I still know what's going on. Just by the tone of what's happening, and you can understand it.
Context clues. Yeah. Didn't they teach you guys anything?
Yeah, you can understand it.
But yeah, so this is an Australian movie. It came out in 1978, and the setup of it is basically, so you get an opening scene with the titular Patrick, and I guess. I really love, like, the opening scene of this. It's so fucking weird. Where he's, like, in the house with, I presume, his parents. I don't know if it's his mom and a stepdad or just, like, or an uncle or mom's friend or something. I don't know, like that. I don't know. Or it might just be his dad. So he's in his room and he can hear, like, the parents having sex, like, in the room next door. And I guess, like, this pushed him over the edge. But they did, like, this really great scene where, like, this gross ass. It's pretty graphic, but it's like this really gross ass dude like is coming over and he's like, yeah, right. And he's like getting on the middle-aged lady and stuff. And they show it, but it's like in the reflection of like the metal ball thing, like on the fucking frame of the bed. And then they show like a split screen, like the wall. And here's Patrick over here, like leaning against the wall of his bedroom. And here's like this ball with these two old people fucking on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, he basically just flips the fuck out. His parents go in and they're taking a bath together for whatever reason. They're like, and they're being like that. And Patrick just can't take it anymore. So he throws a heater in there and electrocutes him.
Damn.
And then at some point, I forgot, like, how did he end up in a coma, though? Like, did the house burn down?
I don't think, that wasn't real clear. It's just, to me, a lot of stuff wasn't clear. But what I did like about the movie is that it's kind of like what Poltergeist is like.
Yeah.
Poltergeist phenomenon, like what happened at Mammoth Mountain.
Yeah.
And this movie's about that.
Yeah.
It's about
psychokinesis.
RSPK, which is recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, and they pretty much got it down. It's just that, like you said, the movie's edit's kind of strange. It's a movie of its time.
Yeah.
That's the issue. That's the problem. But it's still enjoyable.
I liked it too. I think it's a little bit of an underrated gem from Australia from this time period. Well, but the thing about it though is that a lot of horror movies from the 70s like had this tone. It like seems strange to us now, I guess, because I mean I was a little kid in the 70s, and then like most people seeing this like weren't even born then. So I do feel like that's always going to be kind of like, because we don't live in that time period anymore, so it's always they're going to be like that one or two like you know, one or two removed from that.
Yeah.
So, but it's not as odd as, you know, some of the other ones that I've seen in this time period. This one kind of
reminds me a little bit like The Exorcist, a tone kind of like that.
A little bit, yeah.
Mixed with, remember that Italian movie with the fucking young girl who was killing people, and they had the pervy old fat dude who was trying to screw her?
Alice, Sweet Alice.
Alice, Sweet Alice.
Which
something about it.
Yeah.
Kind of like the tone was kind of a mixture of Alice, Sweet Alice, and The Exorcist to me.
This does actually kind of, the tone of this, does kind of remind me of Alice, Sweet Alice.
You know, Alice, Sweet Alice kind of had that weird, kind of odd, kind of cheap feeling, but it was still good.
Yeah.
It felt kind of
This is kind of like that.
Yeah.
So our main character is, well, Patrick, but he's in a coma for the whole thing, which I have to say, shout out to that fucking actor. Other than the opening scene, where he's, you know, killing his parents and stuff, the rest of the movie, he's in bed in a coma with his eyes wide open and staring. And I'm not real sure how they did this, but his eyes don't fucking move or blink or nothing. It's like, even when there's one scene later on where they're like flashing like a strobe light in his face, and his eyes just don't.
You can make something. You can make a little wire retainer.
I guess it had to be.
Hold your eyes up, and then they could do like the old dropping eyedroppers, like in fucking Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, because the whole time I was sitting there watching it, going, "How the fuck did they do that?" It's like nowadays they'd probably do it with CG, but it's like they didn't have that in 1978. So I'm like, that poor guy just had to like sit there with his eyes open and like practice, so like the strobe didn't make him blink or anything like that. Holy crap. It was amazing.
They did something.
They had to have.
Yeah.
For a while I was thinking maybe they used like a still photograph of him.
Yeah, and then
like fleck the light over it or something like that. I don't know. It didn't really look like that, but I guess you could do it like that. But yeah, so he's been in a coma for 3 years. He's supposedly brain dead. But they're keeping him alive because like the doctor at this is a private hospital, and it's a little bit sketchy, I guess. Yeah. You know what I mean? The doctor that owns it is a little bit sketchy, a little bit mad sciencey.
The nurses are kind of sketchy too.
Everybody that works there is kind of sketchy. So it's like there's like a whole sketchy vibe going on.
She's thinking about fucking screwing this dude who's down in a coma.
Well, you know what? There is a reason for that, and I guess it didn't really occur to me while I was watching it, but I kind of thought about it later. But I'll get into that in a little bit.
He was manipulating her mind, maybe.
It might have been that, but I think there was another aspect to that too.
Okay.
But so there's this sketchy hospital. He's staying there, and it's like I guess they could pull the plug on him because they said that he doesn't have any like living relatives. Nobody comes to visit him or nothing like that. But the doctor that owns the hospital is like really fascinated by, you know, what is the line between life and death, kind of. And so he's kind of using Patrick as essentially a guinea pig. They don't show it until later on in the movie, but he's doing like electric shock therapy and all. So he's trying to like figure out where the line between life and death is and consciousness and all this other stuff. So he's using him as like an experimental project, I guess. And that's why they haven't unplugged him yet, even though he's supposedly brain dead. So you get this new nurse who's British, and she comes to work at this place. She's like a psychiatric nurse, or I don't know what the hell kind of nurse she is, but I guess she'd been working in Britain, and this is the first job she's getting in Australia. So she gets interviewed by this really creepy, like, head nurse matron person. Is this a Catholic thing? Or was that just like the headgear that they wore at that? I'm not really sure. I thought it was Catholic, but maybe not.
It might have been a Catholic-funded hospital, because in certain countries they do that. I don't know, you know. The Catholic Church does it, but then there's other ways that Catholics get involved with hospitals too, or maybe not Catholics, but Catholic-like interpretations. There was some weird shit, you know what I mean? They're into real estate and all kinds of business ventures, so
yeah,
it's hard to tell.
I'm not sure if that was just something that was just like a generic like matron nurse headgear, or if that was like a nunny kind of thing.
There's a lot of stuff at that time,
nunny.
you know. I went to a school that was a military school that was just kind of a generic Christian military school, and there were Christians running that. But it wasn't organized any...
But not like real hardcore, any kind of particular denomination.
Yeah, it was like generic.
Just
you know... You could be any... It was just Jesus-y. Let's just sing about Jesus.
Just generally Jesus.
On a certain day. I don't
like
know
a happy clappy.
Yeah, happy clappy. Just for kids. You know what I mean? They didn't even hardly have any Bible stories. Just songs.
Well, because a lot of those are fraught with peril, like for little kids, I feel
well, we weren't little kids, you know what I mean? Middle school.
It was just, like, you know.
It was, you know, from my generation, most of those, you know, private schools that involved Christianity, it was a generic Christianity.
Yeah.
I maybe being called Christian allowed you to have certain kind of tax breaks. Might have been something like that.
I imagine, yeah.
But a lot of the staff were
Christian-y,
you know, I guess.
Christian adjacent.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's about making money, going to work more than anything else.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Most things are.
There's a school curriculum that they had to go through, and on one day a week we had to go to chapel. But we liked that because that got us out of class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They get up there and fucking play guitar and fucking sing and shit. Me to sing along with it. You know, it was only like a half hour.
Loves me.
Yeah, it's that kind of shit.
Happy.
I don't even remember the songs.
Yeah, I don't really. Well, I didn't go to religious.
They'd have the overhead projector with the damn lyrics and shit.
So you could do karaoke.
So
you could have a little bouncing ball.
You had to sing along. Yeah, you had to sing along. It was funny because we were mostly just fucking off and joking around.
Well,
right?
yeah,
I
kind
we
of
didn't take it seriously.
That's the world over.
Yeah,
kind of does that.
We'd be like looking at each other, fucking, you know, throwing shit at each other, spitballs and stuff, and
paper
you
airplane.
motherfucker, I'm gonna get you. You know? No, we gotta sing. You know, fucking, you know, just
shut up, we're gonna get in trouble.
Yeah. This shit fucking 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds do.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So this nurse comes to work there, and because she's the newbie, she gets put in charge of Patrick, who apparently, I guess he needs like 24/7 care, because I guess they need to like, his eyes don't close apparently, so they have to like put drops in his eyes, and they have to like change his bedpan and all this other kind of stuff. The doctor seemed like really concerned about when he was going to have a bowel movement. He would just like ask the nurse. He's like, "Whenever."
Yeah, the nurse was always concerned about when he was fucking rocking up too. Like, he rocked up last night, and she said that to another nurse, and the nurse didn't even ask her how big it was or anything. I was like, "Why are you bringing this shit up if you weren't measuring it?" Because you'd think the other girl would like, "Oh yeah, you know, what are we talking about? Are we talking about like a mushroom? Are we talking about like a stack of D cells? What are we talking about?"
Yeah, they never show it, but the movie does kind of go there. I mean, they does kind of imply that, like, okay, so the thing about it is that, so everybody thinks that Patrick is brain dead. Like I said, the doctor even says, look, we put him on, like, the fucking EKG machine for, you know, however long, so several days or weeks or however long it was. It's like, all it registered was, like, farts and nothing. It's like, there was nothing. It didn't register anything, so he's totally brain dead. However, what Kathy finds out, because she kind of gets fascinated by Patrick, is that he seems to be conscious. He has a consciousness rattling around in there. Like, at first, she's leaning over him, like, changing a sheet or something like that, and he kind of spits on her. So she's like, what the fuck? And then the other nurse was just like, oh, he does that every now and then. It's just like, you know, a reflex action. And that's what the doctor says too. That's what everybody says. It's like, he's, you know, he's not in there. He's just spitting. It's like, that's just shit that happens. And there's a really horrible scene. And I really hope to Christ they did not kill an actual frog to do this scene, but it kind of looks like they did. So trigger warning, I'm just telling you. But the doctor is like, yeah, you know, it's a reflex action, and then he takes one of his frogs, because he has a box of them for whatever reason, and like sticks a needle like in its brain and like puts it down his thing. He's like, which was dumb, because she's like, dude, I'm a nurse, I know what a fucking reflex action is. You don't really have to kill a frog in front of me to like demonstrate, this is what it is. And see, like, his leg still moves when I put an electrode on it. I'm like, we did that in biology class.
That's why they did that. And they could get away with that because they do that in biology classes.
Yeah.
We used to do vivisection on a damn turtle. And
we did too.
The turtle's brain dead.
We did too.
Yeah. But you know, that's
turtles,
all that was
crabs, baby pigs, sharks.
Yeah. But anyway, that's because
it was a bummer.
I enjoyed it.
I didn't really.
I enjoyed it, yeah.
I mean, I didn't mind if the animals were already dead, but the ones that were like still alive, I was kind of...
The only one that was alive that we dealt with was that turtle.
The shark was neat, though.
Yeah.
I thought the shark one was kind of neat.
That turtle, though, you know what I mean? It was brain dead. Its frontal lobes were destroyed.
Yeah.
And we didn't do that. The fucking professor did that.
Yeah.
They do it with a fucking spike. And then, you know,
that's what they did to the frog in this movie.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know if they really did it to the frog. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. It was 1978. I mean, this is Australia, not Italy, but I don't, because Italy would be like, kill it.
Yeah, torture them.
Step on it.
Yeah.
Who cares?
But no, they did that because they were doing that. They were doing that in school.
Yeah.
They did that in high school. You know, the professors did it.
Yeah.
But that's where doctors came from.
Yeah.
You know, they were just trying to figure out who could make a good doctor.
See who didn't get squicked out by it.
Well, some people were. Well, no, some people just they're like Steve. You know, he got into that shit. He was into biology. He became a biochemist because he was doing really good in those classes.
Yeah.
Went to U of M and everything. He ended up on a human genome project. I'd have him on the fucking show one of these days.
Yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
Have my friend Dr. Steve. Have him come
Dr. Steve.
And, oh shit, man! Fucking he'd tell all kinds of stories of trouble we got in.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that would be like a whole show.
Yeah, he's like my brother.
Unto itself.
Hell yeah.
He came. I've met him once. He came here and stayed with us for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she discovers that Patrick can actually communicate with her. He starts by doing the whole, one spit for yes, two spits for no. So he starts doing that and like answering her questions, but then it comes to pass that he can actually control the environment through psychokinesis. Yeah. He can make shit come up on the typewriter. Yeah. He can do all kind of shit like that. It's really funny. They kind of early on in the movie, there's like this crazy old guy that's in the room next door, and to like show how crazy he is, the doctor says, oh yeah, he says Patrick flies out the window at night.
Yeah.
But Patrick doesn't bodily fly out the window at night, but I guess like his soul or his essence or whatever, he can like fly around and do shit at a distance.
He's in an out of body state.
Yes.
His consciousness is outside his body. And, fucking, just like I said, that quantum soul theory and everything that, goes down with me every now and then, like fucking last night. That's some weird shit. We're not going to talk about it on a review. We'll talk about that on a normal show. But, no. I'm convinced because I've seen this kind of stuff before. Just look up Stuart Hameroff's quantum soul theory. He's a doctor. And he was into all this... he was into anesthesia. He's an anesthesiologist. And he just noticed some weird properties that anesthesia did to people. It's a lot of stuff they can't explain. And one of the things is out-of-body type perceptions. They know a person is not having brain activities, but they remembered things. And, you know what I mean? And saw certain things that happened. And he documented it over time, wrote a bunch of books on it. He has a fucking explanation for it called quantum soul theory, which has to do with that what you call consciousness and fucking certain parts of your memory. They're quantum entangled particles that are inside your fucking neurons and stuff, but they don't need those neurons to hold themselves together because they're entangled. So it can kind of float out as a damn entangled fucking mess of fucking subatomic particles, and it's still consciousness. It's like your point of view, and that's what's having that out of body experience. But he's not convinced it holds together forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what's being shown in this movie.
This is very much a 70s paranormal type.
Yeah.
Along the lines of Carrie or The Entity or something like that.
Parapsychological.
Yeah, where it's like, it's not overtly gory. There are like a couple of, horrific type of things that happen in it, but it's not, it's more like a drama, mystery, paranormal type of thing. So basically what ends up happening is that she becomes convinced that Patrick is actually conscious and he's really in there, but he does, like the cartoon with the singing frog where he only sings in front of that one guy. Okay, well that's what Patrick does. He will only do his shit, like type things on the typewriter and stuff like that when she's around. He won't do it. He won't spit like on command or anything like when anyone else is around. And she gets kind of pissed off about it because she's trying to like prove that he's actually alive and that he has these powers. And they do kind of go into the fact that because he doesn't there was one of the characters says early on, he says, you know how like somebody that's blind or deaf or something like that, how their other senses become heightened so they can, it adapts. They're like, well, this guy can't hear anything, can't see anything, can't smell anything, can't taste anything. So then his sixth sense is subsequently like that much more powerful. So so they do kind of like explain.
Yeah, that's how he was explaining.
That's how he would how was explaining.
But that's not how I was seeing it. I was seeing it as that basically he was fucking astrally projected. He was
a
soul.
and like I said, I think they implied that as well, because with the old guy next door saying that he saw him fly out of the window at night because he could go around and do things.
Yeah, in just layman's term, he was astrally projected and he could fucking had telekinesis and can read people's minds and I guess maybe put thoughts in people's minds.
I'm not sure. He could actually, because there was that one thing where, because Kathy, the nurse that kind of becomes obsessed with him. She like, she's gotten a thing where she's separated from her husband, whose name is Ed. They're still like friendly, but it seems like Ed, he like keeps trying to like get her back. Like there's this really weird scene where she's moved to her own apartment and, he like, I guess breaks into her apartment when she's at work and then she comes home and he like jumps on her. And I don't know if they actually had sex or if it was just like implied because it kind of like was a kind of a smash cut to the next thing. Yeah. But then he says something weird like, "Oh, so much for women's rape fantasies." I'm like, dude, you just broke into my apartment. What the fuck? But it's like so, and then like so there's like a weird relationship between the two of them, and then there's this other doctor, Dr. Brian, who she kind of has the hots for, but she just kind of wants the D. She doesn't really like want to get in a relationship or anything. So but I feel like she's kind of getting pushed toward that guy by this other nurse who's kind of slutty or whatever. So I think I saw this mentioned on like another review. The fact that she gets so involved with Patrick is because all the men in her life, like the doctor, Dr. Brian, her ex-husband, they all want to like take care of her. They all want to like kind of smother her, like, they're trying to like get her to go with them. And I think she relates to Patrick because he's helpless and she can take care of him. She can be in control of him rather than him being in control of her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of that going on too.
Yeah. Because
she comes across as like a very kind of liberated and she's like not having it and all this other kind of stuff. But then she's kind of getting involved with these other dudes and kind of letting them.
To me, they were just kind of lame 70s character guys. You know what I mean? Fucking.
They were, yeah. But I mean, you could see why she developed this kind of fascination with this guy. Like I said, now that, and once she figured out that there was actually something going on in his head and then she started to suspect that he could do shit with his mind, and he could do shit from a distance too. It's like, even though his body was like stuck in this hospital, like, because one time he almost drowned Dr. Brian like in his pool, like at his own house. He made the ex-husband, whose name was Ed, I think, burn his hands like on the fucking crock pot or whatever. Like he put his hands on it, like, because I guess like he made him think, like Patrick made him think to do that.
It's the same as reported in Poltergeist.
Yeah, so he could like control people's thoughts too, like from a distance.
Yeah.
So as it goes on, like Patrick starts getting more and more, he starts getting like obsessed with her, and she's not allowed to hang out with her ex-husband. She's not allowed to go out on dates with other dudes, or he will interfere and like do something. She even like he even tries to kill Ed, like trapping him in like a elevator and shit.
It's like a living ghost story.
Yeah, basically. It's kind of like that.
Basically just like that. Yeah.
So there actually was a sequel to this made. The weird thing about this is that the movie didn't do all that well in Australia, but it did pretty well in like other countries, in like the US and Europe. It was actually a pretty big hit. Even though it's kind of gotten sort of forgotten now.
I'd never heard of it.
Quentin Tarantino was actually a big fan of it, and evidently, I can't remember what scene it was, but there was a scene in Kill Bill that was a direct homage to the scene in Patrick where he suddenly jumps out of the bed. You know what I mean? Like pretty much the one jump scare in the movie. So there was a sequel to it, which I didn't see. However, in 2013, they did a remake of it called Patrick: Evil Awakens, and it's on Tubi. And I watched most of it earlier today, just kind of like out of the corner of my eye while I was working on some other stuff. It's actually pretty good. The story sticks very close to the original, but they ramped up the horror elements like big time.
Yeah.
So it's very, very dark and grimy, like a lot of modern horror movies are. And the guy next door to the room, the one that said he flies out of the room at night, it's like he just looked like a normal old dude, like in the original movie, but in the remake he got really horribly burned, so he looks like fucking Freddy Krueger and shit. But it's like, and there's a lot of like musical stings, like whoa, bah, what I mean? There's all that kind of thing. So that's kind of cheesy, but actually, other than that, it's pretty good. And they actually take like huge chunks of dialogue from the original movie, like, and scenes from the original movie, and pretty much do them almost exactly the same. Plus, Charles Dance is fucking in it.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty good movie. Yeah. It's like, if you like, movies from the 70s and you haven't seen this one, because I feel like this one kind of gets forgotten about a lot of times. Because I had only heard of it because I kept seeing it on these, like, underrated horror lists. And I'd never seen it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I should probably get around to seeing that one of these days. And then it came up on Shudder a couple of days ago. So I decided, yeah, what the hell. And I actually ended up enjoying it quite a bit. Like I said, it's not super horrific or anything like that. It's just kind of like a paranormal thriller. Sort of.
It's along the lines of like The Brood or something.
Yeah, kind of that kind of vibe, or like you said, like a Alice Sweet Alice kind of vibe, but more of a paranormal with a little bit of the entity in there.
Yeah,
like not super horror. Like really, it doesn't get horror until the end. Shit. Yeah, it's just like kind of weird shit. But and like I said, if you want to see the remake, which like I said, it sticks pretty close to the story, although some characters die in the remake that didn't die in the original and stuff like that. That's actually on Tubi for free, and it's not bad at all. So if you want to check that out too. But yeah, it's on Shudder. So if it sounds like something that would be up your alley, then by all means check it out. And we'll see you next time. Bye.